The leather check presenter landed on the glass table between us with a flat, deliberate slap. The party had ended 20 minutes earlier. The string quartet had packed its cases. The catering staff was stacking chairs in the corridor behind the Hargrove Country Club's main ballroom, and the last of Desmond's hospital colleagues had filtered out into the parking lot with their children asleep against their shoulders. Bradley pushed the check presenter toward me. He did not say anything. He just slid it across the glass with 2 fingers, the way a man slides a contract across a table when he considers the matter already settled. I looked at the number on the embossed invoice inside. $28,340. I looked at Bradley. Then I sat back in my chair, folded my hands in my lap, and did not move. Something went still in my chest, not anger, not grief, something closer to the moment a column of numbers finally reconciles, when every figure clicks into its correct place and the account balances to 0. Bradley's smile began to slip. He pushed the folder another inch toward me. I left it where it was. Claire. His voice came out lower than intended. A warning dressed as a whisper. I reached into my clutch, set it on my lap, and looked at him with the same expression I used when I was waiting for a client to finish explaining a discrepancy I had already solved. That child was never mine, I said. The table was quiet. Somewhere behind us a waiter set down a tray. Why should I pay? Bradley's face went the color of the white tablecloth. The blood left it so completely, so fast, that for a moment I thought he might tip forward out of his chair. I watched him and did not look away. But to understand why I was sitting there, why my hands were entirely steady while his were not, I have to go back 6 days. Back to the Thursday morning the check presenter first appeared, not on a restaurant table, but on my desk at home, and back further still, to the life I had built around a family that had quietly decided I existed to fund it. My name is not the kind that gets embossed on a country club invitation. I grew up the second daughter, the quiet one, the one who studied while Penelope performed. I went into financial analysis not because anyone encouraged it, but because numbers had always been honest with me in a way that people were not. I spent 11 years building a career at a mid-sized asset management firm in Dearborn. I was good at it. I was precise, patient, and difficult to rattle. I married Bradley Holt 6 years ago. He was a regional sales manager then, commission-driven and charming, the kind of man who filled a room without effort. In the early years that energy felt like momentum. By year 3 it felt like noise covering a slow leak. His commissions had been declining for 2 years running. He covered it with confidence the way some men cover debt with credit, smoothly right up until the moment they cannot. The house on Linden Street was mine before the marriage. I had bought it on my own income, taken out the mortgage in my name alone, and filed the deed at the county office on a Tuesday afternoon without ceremony. I had never thought much about that until the Thursday Bradley walked into my home office and dropped a leather folder on top of the quarterly report I was reviewing. Inside the folder was a preliminary invoice from the Hargrove Country Club. $15,000. Non-refundable deposit. For my sister Penelope's son Leo's 5th birthday party. Just put it on your card, Claire, Bradley said, leaning against the doorframe. It's a deposit. Simple. I picked up the invoice without looking up from my monitor. Why is Penelope's son's birthday party on my desk, Bradley? Because Desmond capped the budget and she already upgraded the package. She just needs us to float the deposit. I'll pay you back when my quarterly bonus lands. Desmond is a surgeon. He's also carrying 2 decades of medical school debt and a new mortgage. They're stretched. I set the invoice down. Then they book a different venue. The charming ease went out of his face the way it always did when a conversation stopped going the direction he had steered it. He crossed his arms. Your parents already told the whole country club board that you're covering it as a gift. Half the pediatric staff is coming. You want to pull the rug out from under a 5-year-old's party because of a deposit? I want to understand why the deposit belongs on my card. Because you make real money, Claire. His voice had the particular flatness of a man who had rehearsed this. Because you sit in this office and you save and you hoard and you never spend anything on this family. It's one deposit. Stop making it a referendum. I took my glasses off. I set them on the desk. If we have money to float a deposit, I said, we have money in our joint account. Pull it from there. Something moved behind his eyes. Fast. Gone before I could name it. I don't want to touch savings right now. Market's volatile. Use your card. Points. I'll pay it back. He left the invoice on my desk and walked out. I sat for a moment looking at the folder. Then I picked up my phone and opened our joint banking app. I had been meaning to do a routine check for weeks. I had been busy. I had kept telling myself it could wait. The balance loaded on the screen. I read the number twice. Then I scrolled to the transaction history. We had built $41,200 in that account together over 4 years. It was earmarked for a vacation property someday, a plan we had discussed and then stopped discussing and then never mentioned again. The money was still there the last time I had looked, 3 months ago. It was not there now. The account held $6,880. More than $41,000 had left in increments over 6 months. Transfers of $2,000, $3,000, $5,000. Never a single large withdrawal. Never anything that would have triggered a flag on a casual glance. The kind of bleeding that only shows up when you look at the whole picture at once. I had built my career on reading whole pictures. I set the phone face down on the desk. I did not go to find Bradley. I sat in the office until I heard him come to the kitchen for a drink, and then I walked out and stood in the doorway. "Where is the money, Bradley?" He turned from the refrigerator slowly. "What money?" $41,000. Joint savings. 6 months of transfers. Where did it go? He set his glass on the counter. The charming ease did not come back this time. "I told you the market was volatile. I moved some funds into a different account. Short term. It's tied up." "Into what account?" "Claire." "Into what account, Bradley?" "A private investment account. My broker recommended it. I didn't want to stress you out with the details because you panic about risk." Something went flat behind my sternum. Not rage, not disbelief, just the particular clarity of a number that refuses to add up regardless of how many times you recheck it. "I want to see the account," I said. "It's private. It's our money. It's my investment. My decision. You don't audit me, Claire. I'm not one of your clients." He walked past me back toward the living room. I stayed in the kitchen doorway. Fix A, Act 3 expansion, plus 218 words added below via 1 dialogue exchange and 1 reflection beat. I had 2 options and I had 3 seconds to decide between them. The first was to call a divorce attorney in the morning and let the process begin on my terms, quietly, before he had the chance to move faster. The second was to wait, not out of hesitation, not because I was afraid of the cost, but because I knew something Bradley did not. I was not done looking at the whole picture yet. "I need the name of your broker," I said. He stopped walking. His back was to me. "Why?" "Because I'm going to call him Monday. Professionally, as a courtesy, before I call anyone else. If the funds are where you say they are, that conversation ends in 10 minutes. A beat. "His name is Ferris," he said finally. "Darren Ferris. Firm." He named it. I did not write it down. I did not need to. He went upstairs. I stood in the kitchen. The refrigerator hummed. I had worked 11 years in a business where the gap between a number on paper and a number in the account could mean anything. I knew what a real brokerage sounded like when you described it. The way Bradley said the name told me everything I needed to know about whether Darren Ferris existed at all. I did not move for a long time. "End fix A. If you touch that deposit," he said from the hall, "if you freeze anything or make any kind of move on those funds before I've sorted this out, I will call a divorce attorney in the morning. And I want you to think very carefully about what that means in a no-fault state, because I've already looked into it. Half of everything you've built. Half of your accounts, your retirement, your income. Every month, alimony. You'll be writing me a check for the lifestyle I've grown accustomed to while you put in the 80-hour weeks. So think about that before you decide to make this into a fight." He went upstairs. I stood in the kitchen. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, a bird moved through the yard. I did not move for a long time. The next morning my parents arrived at 9. I had called my mother the night before and asked them to come. I had not told them why. I did not need to. The urgency in my voice had been enough. They walked in already decided. Diane set her bag on the kitchen island and looked at me the way she had been looking at me my entire life, with the mild practiced disappointment of someone who had expected more and received less. "Bradley called us last night," she said. "He's very upset. Penelope is very upset. That deposit needs to be paid today or Hargrove cancels the reservation." "Sit down, Mom." "We don't need to sit down, Claire. We need you to stop being ungrateful. There it was. The word that had followed me out of every room in my childhood. Gregory settled into a chair at the kitchen table, his posture the posture of a man who considered this a nuisance he had come to resolve. You make more than enough, he said. Penelope has Leo. This party matters to her. It is not a significant sum for someone in your position. $41,000 left our joint account in 6 months, I said. Bradley won't tell me where. Diane waved her hand. Men manage money differently. That's between you and your husband. He's threatening divorce if I question it. Then don't question it. She looked at me steadily. You are almost 34 years old. You have built a career. Good. But a career is not a family, Claire. Penelope has given us Leo. She has given your father and me something to celebrate. You sit in this office and you accumulate and you save and you make sure everyone knows exactly what you earn, and you wonder why no one feels warm toward you. I looked at my father. He looked at the table. If you refuse to pay that deposit, Diane continued, her voice dropping to the register she used when she wanted to make sure something landed, I will call Patricia Wells at your firm on Monday morning. Patricia and I have been on the hospital auxiliary board together for 6 years. I will tell her that you have been erratic. Paranoid. That you've been making accusations about your husband and your sister and that I am genuinely worried about your stability. You know what happens to a financial analyst when her own mother raises questions about her mental state to a senior colleague. I stood very still. Pay the deposit, she said. Come to the party. Smile. Let this go. She picked up her bag. Gregory stood. They walked out. I heard the front door close. I heard the car back out of the driveway. I sat down at the kitchen table. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, a bird moved through the yard. I sat there for a long time and did not feel anything that had a name. At 11:47 that Thursday morning, I found Bradley's phone synced to the shared family cloud we had set up 3 years ago for photos. I opened it. I searched Penelope's name. I read. I scrolled back. I kept reading. I set the phone down. I picked up my car keys. I drove downtown. I walked into a private investigations office on Clement Street and sat across from a man named Roy Decker who had been in the business for 19 years. I told him I needed hotel records, dates, locations. I handed him a cash envelope. I drove home. I made dinner. I set Bradley's plate on the table when he came in. I did not say anything about the phone. I did not say anything about Roy Decker. I said the food was getting cold. Roy Decker delivered a manila envelope to my front door on Friday afternoon. I took it to the kitchen table. I reached in. I took out the file. I unfolded the document, a printed log of credit card charges cross-referenced with hotel records, 7 pages, dates running back 5 years and 8 months. I laid it flat on the table. The Meridian Hotel. Every Thursday. $687 per visit. Consistent as a mortgage payment. The first entry was dated 9 months before Leo was born. I sat with that for a moment. I thought about something Desmond had told me once, at a family barbecue 3 summers ago, standing near the grill with a beer in his hand and the particular quietness of a man sharing something he did not share easily. He had told me about the specialist appointments, the procedures, the diagnosis that had come back worse than expected. He had said Penelope stayed. He had said he didn't know how she found the strength to stay. He had said Leo was the greatest thing that had ever happened to him. I had listened and said I was glad for them. I remembered now the exact date of that barbecue. I counted back. I sat very still. The following Wednesday I drove to Penelope's house with a wrapped gift for Leo. I stayed 40 minutes. I made small talk with Desmond in the kitchen while he sliced fruit. Leo drank a juice box on the couch and left it on the coffee table when he ran off to his room. When Penelope stepped onto the back patio to take a call and Desmond turned to check the stove, I lifted the juice box and slipped it into the inside pocket of my bag. The next morning I took the juice box and Bradley's spare toothbrush from our bathroom and drove them to Crestfield Genetics Lab on the north side of Dearborn. I paid the rush fee. I drove home. I went to work. I waited. Fix B, reveal object seated early, insert after I waited. Plus 35 words. On Thursday evening, before I knew the results, I found a plain white envelope in the top drawer of my desk and set it beside my laptop. I did not know yet what I would put in it. I only knew I would need it for something. End fix B. Friday afternoon the report arrived in my email. I printed it. I folded it. I put it in the white envelope and placed the envelope in my clutch next to my black card. I went to the party. The Hargrove Country Club smelled like hothouse flowers and old money. Penelope had ordered arrangements of white roses and blue hydrangeas in every corner, and a string quartet played in the foyer, and Desmond's colleagues moved through the room in their good suits with their champagne and their genuine warmth for a man they respected. Desmond found me near the windows an hour in. He hugged me. He thanked me for the gift I had brought Leo. He talked about the party with the particular gratitude of a man who could not quite believe his luck, who still woke up some mornings surprised that he had been given a child and a family and a life this good. I listened. I said he was a wonderful father. He smiled and went back to his guests. I stood near the window and did not look at Bradley, who was at the bar, or at Penelope, who was posing for the photographer, or at my parents, who were holding court near the cake. I stood near the window and waited. The wine came later. Penelope crossed the room with her glass too full and her eyes too bright and tipped it against me in a way that was not accidental. It spread across the front of my silk dress in a dark stain, and she covered her mouth and laughed with her friends and said something about parenting and messes that was designed to land in a specific place. I picked up a linen napkin from a passing tray. I blotted the hem of my dress. Something settled behind my ribs, not humiliation, not fury, just a quiet recognition that this was the last thing she would ever take from me. "You're right," I said, looking at her directly. "Some stains don't wash out no matter how much you spend trying to cover them." She stopped laughing. Bradley shifted behind her. I turned and walked toward the foyer. The room had emptied. The caterers were clearing plates. Desmond stood near the coat check with Leo asleep on his shoulder, thanking the last departing guests. My parents were at the bar. Penelope was in an armchair. Bradley was watching me from across the room with the particular confidence of a man who believes the outcome is already decided. Mr. Harrison, the event manager, walked in with the black leather folio. He presented it to Desmond. Desmond opened it. The color left his face. 28,000, he looked at Penelope. "We talked about a budget. You said you had it handled." "Claire is handling it," Penelope said, not looking up. She offered. "Didn't you, Claire?" The room turned toward me. Bradley took 2 steps forward and held out his hand, palm up. "Card, Claire," he said quietly. "Let's finish this." I looked at his open hand. I reached into my clutch. My fingers moved past the black card. They found the white envelope. I withdrew it. "I'm not paying this bill," I said. The room went absolutely still. Bradley dropped his hand. "What did you just say?" I said I'm not paying. I turned to Desmond. "This bill doesn't belong to you either, Desmond." "I'm sorry. I need you to read something." I held the envelope out. Penelope was on her feet. "She's lying. Whatever that is, she fabricated it. Mom told you she's been unstable." Desmond took the envelope. He opened it. He read. He read it again. The paper began to tremble in his hand. I said, "The samples were a juice box Leo finished at your house on Wednesday and Bradley's toothbrush. The lab is Crestfield. The result is certified." Desmond looked at Bradley. Bradley looked at the floor. That was the whole answer. Desmond's voice, when it came, was very quiet. "You knew." He looked at my parents. "Both of you knew." Gregory started to speak. Desmond said, "Don't." He shifted Leo gently on his shoulder so the boy stayed asleep. He looked at Penelope for a long moment. He said, "Pack your things tonight." He walked out. I set the envelope on the table. I picked up my clutch. I walked across the ballroom, past the abandoned champagne glasses and the extravagant floral arrangements and the remnants of a party built on $30,000 of borrowed lies. I pushed open the oak doors. Outside, the air was cool and carried the smell of cut grass from the golf course and something underneath it, something clean. I handed my ticket to the valet. I did not look back. 2 years have passed. I am standing on the front porch of the Linden Street house on a Saturday morning with a cup of coffee in one hand and the county-stamped deed in the other. I pull it out sometimes, not often, just enough to feel the weight of it, the paper slightly thickened at the fold lines from being handled, the county seal pressed into the lower left corner. I bought this house. I paid for it myself. I filed this deed on a Tuesday afternoon and drove home and made dinner and did not think very much about it because I did not know yet how much it would matter. I know now. Bradley's attorney sent a letter 8 months after the divorce was finalized. A single-page, formal language, requesting I consider a settlement discussion. I read it once and set it in a drawer. I never responded. The divorce itself was straightforward in the end. The evidence of dissipated marital assets meant the court was not interested in Bradley's arguments about income disparity. He left with what he had come with. He is still paying back what the court ordered him to repay, in amounts so small the direct deposit barely registers. I was promoted to senior analyst last spring. I manage a team now. I come in early because I want to, not because I am trying to prove anything to anyone. Desmond sends an email every few months. Usually just a photograph, Leo at a soccer game, Leo missing a front tooth, Leo holding a certificate from his kindergarten science fair. The last message said only, "He's doing well. Thank you for what you did." I wrote back that Leo was lucky to have him. I meant it. I have not spoken to my parents or to Penelope. I do not expect to. What I know now that I did not know at 33 is that the people who call you ungrateful are usually the ones tallying a debt you never agreed to carry. They name the debt and they name the amount and they wait for the guilt to do the rest. It works until the day you look at the number clearly, the way you would look at any number without sentiment, and realize it was never yours to begin with. The grass in the front yard needs cutting. I should do that this afternoon. I set the deed on the porch rail and finish my coffee. The morning is very quiet. I am not waiting for anything. If this story reached something in you, if you have ever sat across a table from someone who expected you to pay for their lies, share it in the comments. And if you found your way to the other side of a family that treated you like a resource, tell us how. I read everyone.